Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast, number 1150. And today we're talking about night and day difference. So you've heard me the last couple of days talking about networking riches. So networking riches, the 2 days of networking riches were over the first 2 days of the Association of Professional Genealogists annual conference, which I didn't get to go to because I was working networking riches. But today I got to go to day 3. I've got day 3 and day 4, so I got to go to day 3 today of the conference, and I have to tell you, night and day difference. It was a little bit of a shock because after attending networking riches, which is a very energetic, engaging, getting off the tracks, little side trips type of presentation, I then go into a very formal type of presentation where you're more a lecturer. And you remember, this is genealogists teaching genealogists about genealogy businesses. So you've got professional genealogists together in kind of I would call it more of a classroom lecture hall setting, where you have the lecturer who gives you a lecture for about an hour on different topics relating to professional genealogy and business sense and all of that. So it was a very different vibe. It was done through some app called Hoover, I think it's called. But it's pretty cool because you can go in there, you go into the classroom and you click the thing, there's the little live stream thing, and then you've got a little window over here and you can go Q&A, there's the chat, and then there's the community. So you can actually look at the stuff that's coming up in the community. So in that little window, you can chat backwards and forwards with other people who are in the class. The Q&A is only for putting in questions, and it's the only window they will use when they come to doing the Q&A session at the end. So if you have a question, you pop it into there, and at the end, the presenter takes about 15 minutes to answer those questions. And then there's also the community board communication thing as well. It's a very interesting piece of I've never done a webinar this way. I've never done training this way before. So it was very interesting to get used to that. And I had to go and set up my profile a few days ago and put, who I am and some interesting facts about me. And you had questions that you could answer. But some of their answers, they just didn't fit. Like, I said, I can answer that question. I go in there and I couldn't find my answer. And there's nowhere to type an answer in. So I was like, well, can't answer that question. On to the next one. But it was all like a get to know you thing. And then down the bottom, they had where you could download the notes for the presentation if you don't already have the syllabus. And the syllabus is like 116 pages or something, because it's got every presentation or the notes for every presentation on there. And the cool part is that if you missed a lecture, or there was one on at the same, you're tossing up which one, do I go to this one or do I go to this one? The either or classroom situation. You can in the evenings go back to that previous lecture that you missed and go into the room and click play, and you will get the recording. And I'm like, that's brilliant. Which is kind of cool because my first class was at 7:00 this morning Pacific time, because this is all run on Eastern time. And the other cool part about this thing is you can go up the top and you can change to your time zone, which was awesome because it meant I was looking up there and going, ooh, I finish at 2:00. Nice. So it was a very, very interesting environment to be in, and complete opposite to what we had been doing. So today, what did I learn today? So today we got about maximizing your the profile that we have on the Associated Professional Genealogist website. So we talked about that. Talked about different that one, and the lecturers were very knowledgeable in all the stuff that they were talking about. But sometimes it kind of sounded like they were reading, and it was sort of a semi-monotone. But then when it came to the Q&A, their personalities came out. And because I guess it was more off the cuff, here's the question. Oh, yeah, well, we can answer that one. It's a really great question. Let me answer that for you. So it was very more interactive at that point compared to their lecture time. So it was a very different type of presentation, which was kind of interesting. We got to talk about different options for getting paid, and they covered everything from cash to checks to bank drafts, to electronically sending money via Zelle or Venmo, PayPal, even doing things like Square, all the way through to even accepting cryptocurrency. So that was kind of interesting to listen to. We did have breakout rooms, and on that one, I was in there because I wanted to learn more about the benefits. Yes, I've been a member with them I'm into my 3rd year with them, and I still wasn't aware of what all my benefits were. But I found out one of my benefits that I get is a discount at the Boston University, which does 2 genealogy certificates. And I want to get the first one done, which is a 7-week class, and then the next one's a 15-week class. So I want to get the 7-week one done. So I went in and done all the pre-work for that, have had a look at it, and they tell you what the reading materials are going to be, and said in some instances you may get electronic copies. And I'm like looking and going, yeah, well, I have that book, I have that one, I don't have that one. And then they have the reading list there. So before class, and the next class starts, I think it's November 1st. So I'm like, okay, and you have to carve out about 10 hours a week, over 10 to 12 hours a week over 7 weeks, which includes, because it starts 1st November, it goes through the end of December, it goes through to just before Christmas. I'm like sitting there going, okay, that means Thanksgiving, that means my trip out to California. Yeah, we're going to have to figure that out, because you can't extend any time. There's no time extensions on any of your assignments. Your assignments are due when they are due. There's no extensions, no exceptions. So I'm like thinking, yes, I'm going to have to very seriously look at my schedule to see how I can fit 10 to 12 hours a week in of study and coursework and things like that. So I'm going to spend some time this week looking over that, because it's one of the certifications that I've been wanting to do for a while, but never actually looked at it. And the one I'm going to be doing is Genealogical Principles course. And then I'm going to follow that. And then the next class, for the 15-week class, is Certificate in Genealogy and Genealogical Research. And that starts on January 17th. Again, they're self-paced classes, but you have deadlines of when the assignments are due in. And the one on January 17th is a 15-week class. But as a member of the Association of Professional Genealogists, we get discounts with them. I'm like, okay, let me go see what the discounts are. Let me see. And they've even got, like, you can go and watch. They've got samples online that you can go, of the classes that you can go and watch for the webinars. Excuse me. And they've got the map there, so you can map out what you want to do, when you want to do it, and that sort of thing. So that was very interesting to go to that and learn more about that in the breakout rooms. The next one I went to was about developing online classes. And some of the presentations I was in, I was like, okay, what they're talking about doesn't match the slides. I had a couple like that, and I'm like, hang on, you're talking about this, and that's not what's on the screen. It would be like something completely different. So there were a couple of places on a couple of the sessions that were like that, but it was okay. I got the information I needed. So I learned about, what 10 questions will your course answer. It was talking about developing your course, what it's going to cover, why is it going to cover this, what's it all about, everything else. Then we had trademarking, how to trademark your business. And we're talking about trademarks and registered trademarks and word marks versus, what was the other term that they used? You can actually trademark your domain name, which was actually kind of interesting. So I learned a lot about that, way more involved than I ever thought it was. And I was like, when I trademarked Everything You Love Just Add Water, that was back, and we trademarked Have to Cruise and Everything You Love ... Just Add Water. We trademarked both of those back when we first got into the travel business back in 2008. And and we still use that stuff today, but and we had lawyers that did it. We went to this trademark firm and said, this is what we want to do. They said, fill out this paperwork. We filled out the paperwork. They did all the filings. They did all the research. They did everything that had to be done. And basically we just paid the bill. So it was very interesting learning all the stuff that goes into that. And the person teaching it is a genealogist who was formerly a lawyer too. So it's very interesting, some of the backgrounds that our presenters had, because you got to see that, the first one we had, who was talking about our profile on APG, she has a degree in history. She's a history, was that a master's in history? But she has a degree in history, and somebody else was a lawyer, and somebody else, they all came from very different backgrounds, which shows how diverse these areas are. So that was today. Tomorrow, we start at 6 a.m. in the morning Pacific time. I'm like, okay, I get up at 5. I have a 2.5 hour routine I do in the morning that gets me through my quiet time, gets me, showered and dressed, taking the dog for a walk, coming back, having breakfast. That 2.5 hour routine, I've either got to get up earlier in the morning to get that routine done, or because we're not on camera, I'm just trying to think of timing, because we have like 15-minute breaks between each one, and I can walk Zephy in 15 minutes, and she knows that sometimes she gets a quicker walk than other times. But if she gets a quick walk, then I take her out for a walk, another walk again. After, sometimes there's been times in the morning where I've had to take her for a quick walk before my wake up call, and then after the wake up call, we go for another walk. So we may be doing that tomorrow. Yeah, between the first session and the second session. Thankfully for any of this, the only time that we have to be on camera is when we're doing any networking, because they have you go into the room and you click on the link and it takes you over to Zoom. All the other times it's basically a webinar. So sorry, I got a scratchy throat today. But tomorrow I've got, the nightmare presenter, or how not to present online. What am I doing tomorrow? What every genealogist ought to know about social media marketing. We've got a speed networking thing at lunchtime. Then there's doors, prizes, and more networking. Then I'm doing something called Who Knows Where This Line Will Go. And I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. Or I can go to selecting project management software, for the genealogy framework. Although there has been a really good chat going in one of the community boards about different software that people use for timelines and stuff. And I actually found a really cool one, and I'm going to do their try it out. Because I looked at my mind map program, and my mind mapping program that I'm using doesn't do timelines. When you've got the data across the top and you've got the sections broken down and everything else. But the cool part about this timeline software that I had a look at today, because everybody was recommending different ones and coming back and saying, nah, don't use that one. I tried it didn't work. It's crappy. They need to update it. So there was a lot of feedback coming back about different ones, but there was one that stood out above everybody else. And I'm like, oh, let me go on and have a look at this. Not only can you do timelines as far as a family history goes and put in, so you get to see the little bar graphs and everything and see how they all overlap and all of that, you can do it for storylines. So if you're writing a fictional novel, you can go in there and you can put your characters in there, and you can put the different timelines in there, so you can make sure that your story flows correctly based on the timeline. I have done analysis on novels in the past where I'm reading a novel, and I'll bring up the electronic version on it on one half of the screen, and on the other half of the screen, I'm busy writing out characteristics about characters. But whenever they talk about timeline, this was 2 days later, this was 4 days later, this was an hour later, I'm creating that timeline on a spreadsheet, and I just slot in the times and sort of go, oh, they got a gap in there. So I'm kind of curious to have a look at this and see where it goes. I'm going to do their trial and see what happens with that, because it does storylines, and I can use it when I'm helping to tell my story. But the cool part is that when I'm doing a family history, I can also overlay in there certain events in history that occurred during their time that may have affected the family in that were living in a certain area at a certain time. where they're living in the area, and you can color code. You can color code everybody. There's all this color coding stuff going on. So I'm kind of curious to go and have a look at that and try it out. But that'll probably, if I'm not too tired tomorrow, because what time do we finish? Oh no, hang on. Then at 11, then I've got a forensic genetic genealogy class on tomorrow, and then we've got the closing, and we'll finish around 2 p.m. Pacific time. So after that, if I'm not ready for a nap, then I'm going to go play with this timeline thing and see how it works and have a look at it and all of that sort of stuff. And it's a software that you can install on multiple devices, so you've always got access to it and that sort of stuff. And I'm like thinking, good, because now that I've got my new iPad, I can. I'm actually kind of enjoying sitting in the evenings, and I'm able to type on it, and because I've got a keyboard thing for it as well, which works really cool. And I've got the little pencil thing, and so I got it all set up there because I wanted something for when I go do boots on the ground research, I can take that with me. Or if I want to get away from the office for a bit and I don't want to take the laptop because the laptop battery is starting to go, plus it's full, so I have to go in there and figure out what do I need to move to Dropbox, what can I take off the laptop, move it to Dropbox, and an external drive. I always have backup on backups. So I've got cloud backups, I've got physical backups, so that especially when you're dealing with clients' information, you just got to have a backup on a backup on a backup. So it's been a really cool day. Although, like I said, it was a bit of a culture shock after going from a very energetic, engaging, getting off track, getting back on track type of presentation to one that's more formal in the and by more formal, I think of a lecture hall situation when you're at college or university and stuff, and you're in those rooms and you're sitting there and you've got the professor up the front giving the lecture and all of that, and it's more of a very formal. Here's my talking points, instead of being more, here's my bullet points. Oh, that reminds me type of thing. Whereas when you're in a lecture hall, it's more of a formal presentation. There's not as much going off the guided path as there is in some other events I have been to. So yes, I've gone from a very energetic, engaging event to one that's more formal. Here's the presentation. You can see the speaker, and you've got the slides going. You've got your syllabus there in front of you, which has all the notes. So I didn't even take jeepers. I took about 2/3 of a page of notes. And even if you crammed them all up so they were all on one line each with no spaces in between, it wouldn't even make half a page. Yeah. And that was from all the classes I attended today, because everything was in the syllabus. And I had the syllabus open and I could see the notes in there. And I'm like, okay, don't need to take that note. Oh, there's that slide. And all the slides were in the... So, yeah, it was kind of cool. But, yeah, very different, very different. So, like I said, night and day difference, very much night and day difference. But very enjoyable, learned a lot, got to communicate with some people, got to find out some more stuff, learned some more about benefits and things, learned about chapters and how some of the chapters have gone virtual. And so I thought, well, Indiana would be a good one because my husband's maternal side came from had a big presence in Indiana. And so I clicked on the link and it went to some site that was all in Japanese. And I went, I don't think this is supposed to do this. And they're like, which site's that? And I said, well, I was in the chapters. I clicked on Indiana and it took me to some site that's all in Japanese. And they're like, it shouldn't do that. I said, well, it did. And so somebody else tried and went, yeah, it does. So I thought, it's not my computer. So they're getting all the websites and everything checked out. They're going through and checking all the links now. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, so some of the genealogy meetings are all virtual. I know the Australia New Zealand one's all virtual because you've got Australia and then you've got New Zealand, different time zones. Not a possible way to do an in-person meeting. So they do it all virtual. So, and then England, Ireland, Scotland, all the same way for that one there, because you've got 3 different countries. Okay, you got 2 different islands that are combined. So they do theirs virtual as well. So there's different chapters that have different meetings and things. So It's always good to get to know fellow genealogists, because it's like in any business, get to know your peers. And the reason you get to know your peers in business is because they may have resources that you don't. And like for the genealogy stuff, if I need somebody with boots on the ground in England to go and look up a record for me, I can go into that chat. I can go to the Associated Professional Genealogist listing, find a genealogist. But if I've already met them through one of the chapter meetings, then I can contact them and say, hey, what will it cost for you? What will it cost me for you to go have a look at this for me? Are you able to go and have a look at this? What area are you in? Are you able to look at this? I need somebody to go to this particular record place to look up this record, because there are some areas where records have to be looked at in person because they're not available online due to copyright issues. So not all documents will end up online because of copyright issues. And even if you contact the repository where the information is held, they may not be able to copy it and send it to you because of copyright issues. It might be something that you have to actually go and view in person and hand write out the information that's on there. Like, you can't even take photographs of it. Whenever we're on any of the genealogy classes I have been in, there's always, at the beginning of every session, they go on about the copy. This is the copyright material of the facilitator. You can't take screenshots. You can't do this. You can't do that, because it's their copyright and all of that. But you will have access to these videos until this particular date. And I'm sort of like, okay, I can deal with replays. That's fine. Because there's some ones I've wanted to go back and have a look at, but then some of them provide you with really good syllabuses that have some of the diagrams in there that you want to take screenshots of. So it's like, we're good. It's in the notes. We're good. And some of the facilitators even had in the syllabus had a link for you to go and download the slides. So like, brilliant. Love those ones. Anyway, I'm out of here. I got a puppy who needs to go for a walk. She had fun today. We opened up a bark box. So if you didn't see that, if you want to check out my Facebook page or check Zeffy B's Facebook page, you'll see the video there of, she was really funny. She laid up in her bed on the dashboard. I'm sitting on the floor there with her box, which she had been eyeing since yesterday, because I brought it home yesterday when I got the mail. And so she was sitting there eyeing it. And so she's laying there in her bed that's up on the dashboard, and she's got her chin resting over the edge of the bed, watching every movement that I do. And I get this box, I put it down on the floor. I thought I'd slit open all the tape bits, but we didn't. And I'm like, you want to come see what's in your bark box? And she's just sort of like, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to open it, and I'm going to go live and open it. There's treats inside, there's toys inside. And so she eventually came down and got a nose in there and had fun with it. So that was a school one this time. And she had the bark pack. And the bark pack and the binder. It's so cute. You open it up and there's two squeaky thingies inside. There was a pocket inside, and it was like a little binder, and it had a little bit of Velcro there. So I, after we went off the live, I got one of the new treats, and I tucked half of one treat into the pocket of the binder and sealed it back up with a Velcro strip and tossed it at her. And then I took the bark pack, and there's got a little pocket on the front, so I stuck the other half of the treat in that and closed that up and threw that over at her. So it took her about 10 minutes to figure out how to get them all out, but she got them in the end. And but yeah, she loved her toys. She's not so keen on the heavy chewer one though, because it's got a very hard rubber in the middle, and so she's got to figure out. But that one doesn't squeak. The other ones do. Even the bark pack squeaks. We discovered it had a squeaker in the base of the bark pack. But yeah, so we had the unboxing of a bark box today. So if you want to go check that out, you can. But anyway, we're out of here. Going to go for WALK before the rain comes in, because we've got warnings of thunderstorms coming through this evening. Oh, joy, joy, joy. Anyway, go have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here at 6 p.m. tomorrow. And here comes Zeffy for WALK. Have a super fantastic sparkling evening. Hei konera.